Chicago Pizza presents STP. The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle and Adam Wise.
Gentlemen, we have a trade to announce.
Whoa!
But before we do that, we need to hear the best remix of the last week on the internet.
Are you serious?
Damn, Daniel. Damn, Daniel.
Get ready. Get ready. This drop is gonna wreck your life.
You wrecked my life.
Daniel. Damn, Daniel.
Damn, Daniel. Damn, Daniel.
Daniel. Damn, Daniel. Back at it again with the white dance.
We do allegedly have a sports show.
Daniel.
Hold on.
Daniel.
How great is this? Like, this is
I'm not gonna lie, I would bop to that. I am bopping to that right now. The white vans.
Hold on, it's almost over.
Come on!
It's incredible.
The Chicago Blackhawks have
All right.
You're right. Oh,
Just wanted to start with some music and celebrate because it is Christmas.
yeah!
And this is our last show pre-trade deadline.
It's when we wake up. It's like we're going into a bomb shelter.
Yeah.
And we're gonna open it after all the 28 days later zombies go away, and we're gonna just see a whole new world.
Well, they're all ruining Christmas. It's
The
supposed to all
zombies?
happening on Monday, not now.
You know, people say that every year, and every year there's like 10 or 15 things at least. Plus the Leafs, like God knows how many moves they're going to make.
Totally, because
they've already made 2, and they could still potentially have 10 more.
there's the thing is the Leafs are all the shrapnel from the Leafs still has yet to play out. So this is why last year we didn't really have a story like this. I don't think, like Buffalo sorta, but there wasn't like a team that genuinely has been waiting their entire year planned for the trade deadline like the Leafs have.
It's interesting you say that, Adam, because Edmonton was objectively terrible last season. Buffalo was so bad, but the consequence of how bad they were, like we talked about it last show. Buffalo ended last season with 54 points. The Leafs, as bad as they are, already have 50, right? They were so bad, Edmonton and Buffalo, that they had nothing to sell.
Yeah, that was the problem.
They had nothing to sell.
And they still don't.
The Leafs
Really?
you can strip to the bone. Like there's a little bit of flesh there at least.
Absolutely, and that's flesh that they earned last summer. They went out and they got a lot of the stuff that they're now selling, which is interesting.
This is by design. This is all by design.
Now, let's talk about the trade. Chicago Blackhawks now, I guess they've rehomed Andrew Ladd because he did play there and won a cup there.
That's right. He's getting the Chris Versteeg special. Like, jersey fits the same.
Totally.
And I did win a cup here, but I missed out on 2 of them. Oh, nuts.
No nuts. I guess I'll win another one.
Oh, what a waste of a career.
So here's how the deal breaks down. It's Ladd, Mike Fraser?
Matt Fraser.
Matt Fraser. There's a Matt Fraser and there's a Mark Fraser. It's
And
Matt Fraser.
there's all kinds of
I'm sure
Frasers.
there's a Mike Fraser too. Fraser, Jay Harrison, former Toronto Maple Leaf,
Yes.
who's apparently buried in the minors.
That's what General Fanager said.
For Marco Dano, first round pick, a third rounder in 2018 as well. This is conditional on the Chicago Blackhawks winning the Cups. So if the Cup goes to Chicago this year, Winnipeg then gets the 2018 third rounder for Chicago, which is, I don't know. Oh, yeah, sorry. Also, Winnipeg retains 36% of Ladd's salary.
That's a crazy condition. Imagine being good enough where it's like, oh yeah, if we win, then yeah, you can have our first round pick.
There have been conditions like that in the past, and one in particular I remember was Chris Pronger going to Anaheim.
Didn't the Leafs get an extra second rounder for Coberle because the Bruins won one year?
They did, I believe. I think you're right.
That was like the Colborne.
I think the condition was they go to the final.
Right.
And yes, they got an extra pick. I can't remember what it was. And like, I don't mind those kinds of conditions. You know, I think they're smart. Like, look, we're getting this guy to be good. If we get as far as we want, we have no problem giving up this pick. If we don't get that far, we're going to be pretty pissed, and it's going to be hard to do business with you again because you fleeced us. You know what I mean?
Totally.
This is Chicago's got to be thrilled because, you get
a really great leader, character guy who's been there with you before, played with these guys before, right?
Right. Well, yes, and you know what? I do mean Chicago, but what I actually meant to say was Winnipeg.
Oh.
Because what they wanted, I don't know why I said. I was like, wait, I was
Steve
getting
Dangle or Steve Harvey?
wait, no, I have to apologize.
Well done.
I have to apologize. The Winnipeg Jets actually get no, because what they wanted, the rumor for the longest time was they wanted a pick and a top prospect. And the whole time I'm like, well, I know it's a trade deadline and everyone loses their head, but good luck. Well, I actually got more than that. They did have to retain some salary, but Matt Fraser and Jay Harrison I don't think were guys they were using anyway. So in a way, that was a dump, and they almost cancel out. I'm saying that with no numbers in front of me.
Well, I think, too, Winnipeg retaining some of Ladd's salary, it still gives the Hawks $1.4 million under the cap to use.
Yes.
Which is a lot more than I actually thought they had. I thought they were one of those teams that was like teams that were right up against it, but I guess the Harrison-Fraser part of the deal kind of loosened it up.
That's probably the only way the deal got done. And I mean, that's another way to ensure that you get all those picks. They're buying them. They're buying them. In the cap world, you got to figure out ways you can buy draft picks and assets. The Leafs have obviously figured that out. And the Jets are kind of doing that with this deal. This comes from Cap Friendly. You already kind of said it. With the Jets retaining 36% of Ladd's salary, the Hawks still have $1.4 million in deadline cap space. So that's the source. Does this mean that the two scouts that are at the Leafs Hurricanes game tonight are not there for nothing? Because both the Hurricanes and Leafs are probably going to sell. Leafs more than the Canes.
Right. And does this mean that the Leafs will not do business with the Chicago Blackhawks?
I don't think so. I don't think, because most of the Leafs items, I hate talking about people like that, but most of the Leafs players, assets that they have are relatively cheap. Relatively. And when you're Chicago, okay, so you give up a first round pick. Well, okay, that pick is probably going to be somewhere 25 to 30 anyway. And you give up a prospect like Marco Dano. You are mortgaging your future. But at the expense of what? You have your core, and it's locked up forever. You have Kane, you have Taves, you have Keith, you have...
Seabrook's up pretty soon.
I don't remember what his contract's like. I think Crawford's locked up for a while.
Mm-hmm. I think Crawford after this year's got 3 years left.
So Jesse's...
one interesting thing about their cap situation for next year is that they're projected to be $2.25 million over the cap right now.
And that is where the Leafs come in because...
Oh, Brian Bickle?
Can you afford Brian Bickle? Well, your Uncle Leafy can.
Right.
Artem Anisimov is locked up for quite a while. They extended him before the season began, it looks like. So he'll go up from 3.28 to 4.55. Seabrook is actually locked up. I forgot he was extended.
Oh, he was.
Yo,
I
he's
missed that.
making more than Duncan Keith. Keith has one of those stupid, redonkulously long contracts from before the lockout, and it's not even allowed anymore. He's making 5.5. Seabrook is
so stupid.
Duncan Keith makes...
Is David Clarkson making more than Duncan Keith?
Yes.
Easily.
Oh
my God.
He's making a couple $100,000 more than Keith. You know who makes only $38,461 per season less than Duncan Keith? Dave Bolland.
Wow.
Dave Bolland.
Wow.
It's just unbelievable. And it's another example of like a guy like Tyler Seguin, when he rushed at the last minute to get that contract extension signed before those contracts were illegal. Tyler Seguin hits free agency and the number doesn't start with 9. You hang up the phone. I don't get it. Like, what are the odds you're going to suffer a career-ending injury? What are the odds? Not good. Anyway, back to the Blackhawks. Your core is locked up, and you just got this found money, basically, with a guy like Panarin, who is signed to what? This year and next, Panarin makes $812,000.
And after that, even, you probably could bridge him.
Well, he's a little older, though, remember.
Oh, is he?
He's 24, so I'm not sure
okay,
how
maybe
that
not.
works.
Yeah, that's why people are upset if he wins the Calder, because he's played like 3 years of actual hockey. So
No, they shouldn't be upset. If he's the new guy in the NHL, it's still an adjustment, is it not?
Yeah.
Or is it...
And McDavid has got 28 points in 24 games.
I think McDavid should win. I still think he's going to win.
It's an interesting argument. But anyway, Andrew Shaw's up. Richard Panik's up. Yuri Sekach is up. They probably want to retain Andrew Shaw. I don't think they give a rat's about Panik or Sekach, really. I mean, the Hawks are supposed to win now, is what I'm trying to say. Like, it doesn't... Okay, you don't want to just be giving away picks and prospects willy-nilly. We saw what that did to the Leafs a few years ago, but the Leafs weren't the Blackhawks. They weren't this team. And it's not like, the guys I just mentioned are old. Keith is 32, but he's a cyborg, so he doesn't count.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
They're in position to win this year. They're probably going to be in position to win next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. Like, I don't hate the logic from their end. And I feel like maybe we ripped on the Vermette deal a little too much. Well, I mean, the reason I ripped on the Vermette deal is because I wasn't sure how much he would actually help the Blackhawks, and they kind of needed a defenseman.
And he didn't at first help them all that much. I mean, I do remember he was scratched a couple games there, even in the playoffs.
The Hawks have put themselves in a bit of a better position defensively this year. And I mean, they were hurt last year. But you got to prepare for that.
Totally. You
got to prepare for that, right? So, well, they just got Jay Harrison if they wanted. So they're in a position to win, and they can still add.
They can still add, and I mean, the thing is, if you're the Hawks, I mean, people would say, like, the Leafs give up Parento and take on Bickle. What do you get? Well, you get Bickle's salary, and what kind of pick are we looking at here? What would that look like?
This was the thing, because people were saying you could probably get a first out of Chicago because that's how badly they want out of this deal, and if you give them a piece that can help them, it's
pretty good.
No problem. Here's a first, but now we're looking into next year, right?
Well, and that's not the worst thing either. No. However, I would see if I'm Stan Bowman, I am saving next year's first overall pick or first round pick, because next year at the trade deadline,
I can do
when I'm in
same thing.
the same position as I'm in this year, I'll do the same thing. And why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
I mean, they can draft. This is a team that drafts fairly well, right?
They've. I don't know how they've done in recent years, because all they've really needed to do is get complementary pieces.
Exactly. And that's all that matters. For the next 2-3 years, they don't have to worry about that sort of thing. But I don't...
It's crazy.
I mean, I know they'll probably want to get out from underneath Brian Bickle's contract, but if I'm Stan Bowman, I am snot. I almost said standing pat, and I would have hit myself in the face.
You did say snot.
Yeah. Snot. I would snot make a move and give up the first round pick for next year. However, on the Leafs, whatever they want.
That is true. Like, I don't think the Leafs would mind too much.
No, but there's other people and there's other teams that now are looking at Chicago, and I would think, I mean, San Jose loaded up earlier this week with obviously Leaf players. Chicago makes this move. You got to think that Los Angeles is in there because Marian Gabourik's going to be out for a while.
Pittsburgh's got 2 guys at the Leafs Hurricanes game.
Interesting.
Yeah, there are many scouts at this game. I think it's a representative from almost every team, but Pittsburgh and Chicago are the 2 teams with 2 people there. Not that necessarily means anything.
Right. It doesn't.
But I mean, to me, when you have 2 scouts, you're either scouting multiple people or they're there to have a discussion.
Right. Also, I wanted to ask you, do you think that because Ladd is now gone in Winnipeg, that's going to free up some room for them to go after someone else. But do you think then Dustin Byfuglien re-ups with them?
He has.
Oh, he has. I missed that. Did that happen while I was at the Grammys?
Yes, you know what?
Yeah.
I think it was.
Sorry, I completely missed that.
No, and
he's back.
he made bank. What was it, $7+ million?
Damn, I completely missed that.
It is 7.6.
Okay, well, I'm not. I'm embarrassed. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Like,
I was
for
totally,
how big of a deal it was.
It wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, it wasn't talked about all that much. It was weird. The number one takeaway of it wasn't, the Jets got Byfuglien locked up. It was, I guess Ladd's available now.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone's just trade deadline on the mind.
Do you guys want to play some trivia?
I missed that.
Screw you for having another job, Adam.
Jesus.
8 more jobs.
Yeah. What's the trivia?
How many career playoff games do the Blackhawks have combined on their roster?
Oh, just friggin'.
I'm going to say more playoff career games than the Leafs have on their roster in regular season games. Even though it's a load of crap.
No.
Might not be bad.
Dude, Leipzig's on number 3 tonight. Percy's on, number 15?
Yeah.
Dude, you're probably right.
It might be close.
I don't think it is close, and I think the Blackhawks are crushing them in that department. Oh, Brad Boys probably ruins it.
Yeah, maybe.
yeah.
Maybe.
Damn Brad Boys.
what's the
I'm
number?
going to say 850 playoff games.
If it is 850, then that's up over the Leafs' current regular season
gotta be.
amount.
No, Brad Boys has.
Brad Boys
Now I
has
have to look this up.
500 or 600, I think.
Okay, maybe
or no,
not
that's
then.
points.
Okay. Adam,
What's the answer to this one?
What's your
first?
guess?
700.
They have played a combined 1,345 playoff games.
Wow!
I was thinking about saying 1,200, but I was like, no way.
1,345.
Dude. Wow. That actually might be more than the Leafs.
Yeah.
That
regular
actually
I
season.
don't
might
think
be.
there's an actually about it. No, it's 100%. It's got to be.
No, Brad Boys has played 800 career NHL
They
games.
still got 500 to go.
Where
true.
where are the 500 coming?
Parenteau,
Komarov?
Reimer, not Komarov. It's only his third season.
Damn.
The Leafs probably beat them, but not by much.
Not by much.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
Wow.
Crazy.
By the way,
Must be nice to be a Blackhawks fan.
well, I mean, what do they get?
Nothing, ever.
No, I've done that rant already. Yeah, you know what I saw today. So let's pretend Leo Komarov stays the Leafs' leading scorer,
Yeah.
and let's pretend he stays a Leaf this season at least. He's got 35 points right now. Connor McDavid, who, as we know, missed most of the season with injury, has 28 points in 24 games. Is Connor McDavid going to have more points than the Leafs' leading scorer by the season's end? He
And
might
now-
by the end of the month.
Now, we did this prediction last episode with how many points the Leafs would have
Yeah.
at the end of
yeah.
the season. By the way, I think I'm doing pretty well with my 60-point prediction. I don't think have they gotten a point?
Well, no, but they've only played one
It's been
game.
one day.
Well, and they're tied with Carolina as we record
So yeah,
this.
I guess you are looking good,
I
man.
mean that's 10 to 70% right.
I still like my I still like my prediction of 67.
67 is that hurts. I think Connor McDavid absolutely gets it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't even think it's a question. I mostly posted it as a troll, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So this has to make the Blackhawks favorites in the West if they weren't already.
Depends on what Los Angeles does. It does. Because I think we're talking complete teams. Chicago and LA to me seem like the most complete.
Well, they also seem like teams that don't really give a damn about the salary cap. They just kind of have their own.
We should also
Yeah.
be worried about the Anaheim Ducks, the hottest team in the league right now. Do you know the record from December 25th?
Let's hear it.
It's gross, right?
24-2.
Woo!
So
Those are the way. That's the Ducks we know.
Wait, 20-4-2?
yes.
Oh, okay.
So you
24
can't
and 2.
rule out the
Imagine it was
hottest
like
team in the NHL.
So that's amazing. And we did pick them to go to the finals this year. We did say
I
that.
certainly did, yeah.
So the so
I
okay.
also picked the Lightning.
What would the I mean, like, there have been rumors with the Leafs and the Ducks. They've done deals before, but that was with different management groups. Not that that really matters, but do you see them as a team that looks at this and goes, "This is actually our year because we're hot now," and that's what matters. LA with their first cup were 7th going into the final or the playoffs, and
They
then
were hot.
but they were hot.
Let's stop beating around the bush with the question. How badly does Dave Nonis want to give the Ducks first to the Leafs for Frederic Gauthier? Let's talk about that.
Well-
it's going to happen. Let's talk about it.
That's not going to happen.
He's going to have to fist fight Jim Benning. Oh, he's just like, there's a big guy with size. Here's Thatcher Demko. By the Canucks fans, I got to apologize. I forgot that the Canucks have like one of the best goalie prospects out there, and a few people pointed that out. But it doesn't matter because he's going to get traded for Frederic Gauthier.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
And a first.
Well, if he's
and a first.
imagine Dave Nonis just calls up Masai Ujiri and goes, "What's Luis Scola going for these days? Is there a way that we can interleague?"
Bargnani?
Yeah, he's still got Bargnani. We feel like he's got great potential.
Dave, that's the stupidest thing you've ever heard. $5 million.
Yeah, exactly. Pick up most of DeMar DeRozan's max deal next year. By the way, DeMar DeRozan will be making more than a quarter of all Toronto Maple Leafs next season. Wow. He'll be making $25 million. The Leafs salary cap will be about $72 million. So that's nice. Okay, so let's talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. There's some good news, there's some more good news, and then there's some great news.
Oh.
And I know that you didn't expect that. We're not going to break any trades, at least not yet. We don't know of any. They're tied as of the recording of this show, 1-1 with Carolina. Who scored again?
That's funny.
Brad Boyce. That's right. And
Tim Gleason.
not Tim Gleason, the other guy who used to play for the Leafs.
I mean, technically, Tim Gleason scored. when you really think
when
about
you break it down, yeah. Who was it, Steve?
John Michael Lyles. Stop making me say it.
His 7th goal of the season, I believe.
Oh, really?
No, hold up. Was it his 7th?
Doesn't
No, it was
matter.
Brad Boyce had his 7th. John Michael Lyles has 6.
Oh, what a bum.
Just saying.
As a defenseman.
And the Carolina Hurricanes are actually within striking distance of the playoffs all of the sudden. Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, let's talk about something good that's going to make you feel good.
Make you feel good.
Apparently, according to what happened today, JVR shows up to practice in a boot. So
Yeah.
the foot, there was some sort of setback. I don't know what the setback can be when you've broken a foot. Maybe he fell down some stairs. Maybe it's just not healing right, not taking his calcium pills. I don't know. But JVR is done for the year. Okay? Also, and Jesse, do you have the Leafs general manager up?
I do.
Okay. Also, Joffrey Lupul. Done for the year. Now, that came out a little bit later today. And really, I mean, Joffrey Lupul's played about 4.5 games in the last few years. So I think...
Poor guy.
I think...
Unbelievable.
like, really? But they've already been on long-term injury reserve. So the Leafs cap with those two off already remains at... They're about $8.09 million.
Yeah, I was still a little confused as to how that works.
So basically what happened, we won't talk about it. Go to general manager or tweet them for how that works.
Or
It
cap
says
friendly or
only
whoever.
900 grand, but that's because some of the long-term injury relief stuff is actually on the cap right now. But if the Leafs wanted to go up, they can go almost $9 million over the cap.
Can I just read this tweet by George Russick? With Joffrey Lupul now done for the season, the Leafs paid him $613,000 per goal in real dollars this
Sorry,
season.
$613,000 per goal?
Yep.
What did he get? 12
I don't know how
goals?
many
Something like that? What is that?
He actually didn't do so bad, like in terms of
No,
goals
but
per
so-
game.
so
he
si-
had like a little hot streak.
See
that's fine.
what he had? He probably had 10 or 11 goals, and he didn't play much, so that's pretty good.
Is it though?
It's all right.
Well,
he,
I mean-
he had like 3 assists too.
$600,000 per
Poor
goal.
guy, and like it's not good news. Like if you weren't gonna trade for Joffrey Lupul before, you're certainly not gonna do it now. Like in the summer, even though you have to pay less. Like holy smokes, the guy's having surgery again.
How Stefan Roby Dodd is Joffrey Lupul going to be?
Now, you'll have to ask a certain 73-year-old in the Leafs organization that, because you got to wonder, a guy whose play has deteriorated as much as Lupul's has, a guy whose health has been so bad. Like
His entire career, he's had health problems. But there was like a stretch there with the Leafs where he looked really like the guy he always should have been.
he was an all-star. Which, I mean, Yannick Perreault was too. But, you can have a good year. But he was with the Phoenix Coyotes. Back when they were called the Phoenix Coyotes. Nothing in the Phoenix chart today. I could see him being Roby Dodd next year, in that he is paid not to play, and it doesn't count towards the cap. Although, at what point does the NHL step in and go, shenanigans?
Well, at what point you could make the same argument, does the NHL step in with the Oilers and go, shenanigans?
They should.
I don't think they should. But if
wrong.
if the NHL has a problem with the way they structured the cap, the new CBA is up in a couple of years. So they can figure that one out. But the Leafs are playing to their advantage right now, so why not? Right? There's nothing the NHL can do.
I did have a thought I was going to bring to the show. Jesse, do you remember who was picked first overall in the NBA draft last year? He had like a hyphenated name. Crap, I forget his name. Well, anyway, imagine an NBA team, Adam. Imagine an NBA team that had John Wall, Anthony Davis, and Kyrie Irving, and whoever was picked first overall last year. Jesse, you got it yet? Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, John Wall, and whoever was picked first of all last year, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Imagine that NBA team still sucking. That's the Oilers.
Now, to be fair,
all those players I just mentioned were picked first overall in the years that the Oilers picked first overall.
to be fair,
Oh, Carl Anthony Towns.
That's
there we go.
what I knew. I thought it was Towns.
To be fair, the NBA is a far more individualistic, star-driven league.
So what?
You need great players around a guy like LeBron, but LeBron can get you to the playoffs and probably the finals without
Basically on
much
his
else.
own.
He did it with Danielle Marshall as his best player
Yeah,
when in his like third year in the NBA.
and Shaq was like there too for a minute.
Sort of.
Yeah.
He did half his games in a broadcaster suit. Like,
But that's the thing is that like, you know, I didn't really want to get into the Oilers, but this is the way the rules are set up. So, the rules are set up this
well,
way.
Lou doesn't care.
Exactly. And the NHL can't step in. So here's what you have. You could sit Lupul. You could sit Lupul for sure.
Now,
if
Lupul
you
has
can
to
convince
agree to
him.
Yeah, you have to explain to him that his career is over and he has to sit for the next 2 years.
And make $11 million.
But there's pride, for the love of God, you know? I don't know. I would love to know what goes into that conversation. I would love to know how you convince a player to just sit there.
I do too.
Ask Robida.
Are the Leafs really just going to have over $8 million? I think it's going to be 8.25. Like, let's pretend that actually happens, Adam. Next year, they're going to have $8.25 million dedicated to just players who are like, yeah, I'm done.
Potentially more. You never know what they're going to do. I mean, and they could. They could. This team makes so much money that they absolutely could. And that's the thing. As a Leaf fan, that's exciting because they can do that stuff and they are leveraging the hell out of it. And good for them.
And what do you care how much money they spend?
Exactly.
Like,
It
what do
doesn't
you care?
matter to you.
If you're a Ducks fan, you got to worry about
And-
that.
and-
If you're a Sens fan, you got to worry about that.
If the Leafs win the Stanley Cup, and this is how they did it, people are going to be like, yeah, well, they used all their money. And Leaf fans are going to be like, so what? On the cup.
So
Who
what?
cares? Come at us, bro. Do you think the Yankees...
The Penguins won by sucking for a decade.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. And you look at the New York Yankees, right? And the obscene amounts of money that they have paid for championships in the past. And make no mistake, the New York Yankees bought championship teams. They didn't develop championship teams. It was Derek Jeter and whoever was the free agent that year.
yeah, like it's not even controversial to say.
No.
People are just like, yeah, we know.
Yeah, but ask a Yankees fan and they go, yeah, check out all these championships.
Yeah, woo.
So
Don't care.
I don't care, and I think it's great. Now, here's the great news. So we've got good news that those two are going to sit. It's good news because A, it'll give their bodies time to heal. So JVR comes back next year, and his body has less wear and tear on it than it would have had he played to the end of the season, arguably.
Let's pretend he didn't suffer a setback. What's he returning for? What's he really returning for?
Yeah.
And you can, if you want to deal him, you're not going to have a problem dealing JVR.
And his beautiful contract.
Of course. And if you want him to be part of your team going forward, yeah, sure, why not? So you should heal him up. So, the fact that he suffered a setback to me is kind of semantics.
Right, exactly. They just needed to give a reason.
It's not semantics for him.
No.
I'm sure. And that's the other thing. Like, people thought this was a Lou sit, but no, you can't fake surgery for Lupul, and you can't fake wearing a boot. I mean, I suppose you could.
Yeah, I don't think JVR is that kind of guy.
No, exactly.
But what I like is that there isn't the mileage on his body, right?
No, he broke a bone, didn't he?
Yeah, but the rest of his body kind of gets to go, I get to heal.
Yes.
And because just newsflash for everybody that doesn't already know this, professional sports, not good for your body.
It hurts.
Yeah, so
hurts sometimes.
not good overall for your health.
Yeah.
Strangely enough.
Jesus, he's still got bruises from Chara's cross-checks in 2013.
Here's the great news, guys. Jared Cowan and his contract may be the best part of the Dion Phaneuf deal. And Brandon Pridham, everybody send him a gift basket.
Yes.
Everyone.
We have talked about this before. He's one of the Leafs assistant GMs. Kyle Dubas gets talked about a lot because he's, at the forefront of analytics. He's young, he's gorgeous. And then there's Mark Hunter, the guru of all draft picks. And there's Brandon Pridham, who I couldn't pick out of a line. I don't even know what he looks like, but he manages the Leafs cap. And he used to work for the NHL, and he knows all kinds of, they kind of market him like a young Lamoriello in terms of knowing all kinds of shenanigans you can do. Please, Adam, read to me the shenaniganery going on with the Jared Cowan deal, because everyone keeps trying to tell me about it and I don't understand it.
First, let me context this, okay?
Okay.
So we know that Jared Cowan was a fairly highly touted defenseman, enough that the Ottawa Senators gave him a pretty big contract. He's making $3.1 million a year.
Top 10 pick the same year Kadri was picked.
Right. And did quite well in the NHL until he had a hip problem, which is now he's now into his fourth year with the same hip problem. And hernia surgery.
I mean,
Hernia surgery.
you want an idea of what a hip problem can do to a career? Carl Gunnarsson is, I mean, people
Is he
ripped on
playing?
that trade
It's-
at the time, including me, the Gunnarsson for Polak trade. He's not the same player. He's not. And that's because he's messed up his hip.
Yeah. And it's so much of your movement. It's so much of your shifting, especially as a defenseman. That's really hard. So, as Ottawa Senators fans, I think rightly so, we're like, this guy stinks, but it's probably because of injuries, not because he stinks.
Yeah, I mean, he was big, so mobility was an issue anyway. And I mean, you take anything out of his mobility, he's done.
Exactly. Now, there is I don't know how this is structured, but because Jared is so young, and this is thanks to Chris Johnson, who finally explained it properly at sportsnet.ca, Cowan
Reporter
could,
Chris, he's the best.
could be dealt before Monday's trade deadline because of an unusual quirk that gives any team that bought him out this summer a salary cap credit of $650,000.
How does that goofy crap even work?
So you're the Leafs, okay? You're the Leafs. And you have Leafs general manager up.
Yep.
Okay, so you're the Leafs. You've got Nathan Horton on long-term injury relief. Okay.
Oh, I
Reserve.
forgot about him.
You've got
$5.3 million.
so then you got Stefan Robida. So now you're up to 8.3. Now
They don't have a salary cap.
now
They
you
literally don't.
Now you buy out Jared Cowan. Okay. Now you buy out Jared Cowan this summer. You're up over $9 million, right? Well, close to it. Close to
Yeah.
about $9 million. How much money is left on Tim Gleason's deal?
1.8 or 1.3 for the next
I think it's
2 years.
1.3.
Yeah, Jesse's on it.
1.8.
Wow.
God.
That sucks.
Dave Nonis.
Dave Nonis. But
sucked.
but-
he really just sucked.
it now no longer matters. And that's what's so great. It no longer matters by $8 million. That's how much that no longer matters. And that is I think that is the crown jewel of that trade. Now it might be Tobias Lindholm. He was great when we went and saw him in the
Lindbergh.
Marlies. Lindbergh. Lind something.
It's okay. There's a Lindholm on the Ducks. Does he explain why they get a credit?
No. No.
I'm sure he does if you just read.
No, it doesn't.
I'm sure he does. Oh, no, I'm kidding. Okay, so once again.
hold on.
Okay. That's amazing.
Duda earned $4.5 million salary in his final year of a backloaded deal.
Oh.
Since the cost to do so is only 1/3 of the remaining value, because Cowan is under the age of 26, a team could get a rare $650,000 cap credit in 2016-17 and assume a cap hit of $750,000 the year after.
Oh,
So,
they would get relief next year.
and then it would go against them the next year.
So you're just delaying
So,
things.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're a team like
Chicago
or even Pittsburgh,
or Pittsburgh,
who could actually probably use another defenseman, but wow,
Interesting.
That's so dumb.
by the way,
That's dumb. You shouldn't
Chris,
be able
Chris
to do
doesn't
that.
explain. He doesn't explain it. Just explain it. Doesn't explain it at all.
Oh,
Yeah. So, just saying. That might be the crown jewel right there.
so you think you're leaning more on the side of the Leafs can trade him?
Yeah. Oh, and I guess the
How
thing is,
stupid is that?
he's got 1 year left. And what's
He's not going to play on the Leafs.
$700,000 when you've got that much money in injury relief? It's nothing.
And like, if you are the Blackhawks and you are absolutely so crunched, do you say to yourselves, you know what? It is $700,000 out of our cap in 2 years, but how about we just cross that bridge when we get there?
Wouldn't you? I would.
I wonder. Yeah, you just got to think of all the cap crunch teams, and there are a lot. Pittsburgh also comes to mind again.
Pittsburgh comes to mind a lot. they're interesting because they've been relatively quiet, and Jim Rutherford's been all about trying to make that team win.
Kings.
Forcing them to win somehow.
Well, they've been doing a good job recently with, except that stinker against the Bruins.
They finally have a proper coach.
It's so weird. So, we have all these expiring deals that we think are on their way out the door. Potentially Michael Grabner, potentially P.A. Parento.
No one's even mentioning Michael Grabner.
No, it's weird.
That's
do people not want him? Is that the problem?
But he's fast.
And you need that guy. You need Grabner in the playoffs. You need a guy like him who can play on the fourth line. You're totally cool putting Grabner on the fourth line, but he'll kill penalties. And if you need a guy out there who's just going to whiz by everybody when they're all hurt.
Listen to the conversation we're all having. How can you possibly think, with only Friday, Saturday, and Sunday remaining before Monday's trade deadline, how can you possibly think nothing is going to happen that day? Even with Ladd gone, and let's pretend he's the biggest fish available. He's the Antoine Vermette of this year.
Oh, man. Last year was so bad.
I know. But how can you say that?
You can't.
There's still so much, and that's just the Leafs. It's just the Leafs. Who are the teams not in the playoffs right now? Edmonton doesn't really have much they can sell again. Columbus might be able to sell a couple guys. The Leafs certainly. Oh, the Flames have a bunch of guys in the block. Mm-hmm. Vancouver's falling further and further out of the picture.
I'm sorry. Did Granlund not help them?
Not yet.
Maybe it's too early.
Oh, yeah. How dare you? Minnesota is probably going to try to get back in the picture, and they're not that far out. Arizona. Bodker is a name that keeps coming up. Buffalo could deal guys. They already did.
Mm-hmm. Bodker was going to resign.
Is it Bodker?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Bodker was going to resign there, but apparently last minute the Coyotes pulled the deal, and I don't know what that deal.
So I read he wants like $6 million.
Oh, okay. That's why I'd pull the deal too.
Shut up, Michael.
Later.
Sens are going to go for it. They're only 4 points out. Flyers are only 5 points out. I mean, so are the Canadians. But, LOL, Canadians. You can't actually think you're going to close that gap.
No.
Then again, they're silly.
If I'm the Leafs, I definitely let them think that.
Yep.
Oh, totally.
And I think Bergevin kind of has to do something because of that press conference that he had where he doubled down on Therrien and he was like, this is our guy. This is our guy. He's not going anywhere. I think he has to do everything he can to support his own point of view. Otherwise, that is stuck directly to him as soon as the season ends. It's on. He took it off Therrien and made it about Bergevin. So if I'm Bergevin, I'm going, damn, I got an issue here. I got to deal with this. I'm going to make a trade.
He was saying zoot.
Zoot, exactly.
Zoot.
En français.
Zoot hello.
Couple things before.
Someone actually tweeted me, Steve, listen to the last show. The way you say Islanders in French is just Islanders. And I'm like, I know. We didn't actually... Anyway.
Habitant. The last thing I want to do before we leave Sportsnet 590, the fan, and then you can go to sportsnet.ca to download the rest of the show or subscribe on iTunes if you prefer.
Where I can swear about Jean-Michel Lyles.
Jonathan Drouin looks like maybe, possibly. I mean, Yzerman came out and said...
There's the big fish.
Yeah.
We got him right there.
Well, and here's the thing about Drouin that scares me. Everybody seems to want Drouin, and there seems to be, 10 to 15 teams in on him?
I heard 20, so...
Yeah. So everybody wants the guy.
Why wouldn't you want him?
Okay. But what then... First off, the attitude's a little scary to me. The second thing that freaks me out about him is that what do you then have to give up? Because from what I'm hearing... I'm not an insider. What I'm hearing, you have to give up comparable value, which is one of your top prospects. So why would you swap top prospect for top prospect?
You know who's got some prospects to spare and a ton of picks to spare, especially next year, and also don't seem to really care about attitude issues? The Sabres. That's a team that strikes me as a team that makes a lot of sense for Drouin.
The Vanderkane and Drouin.
I'm sure they'd be
locker room.
Even Ryan O'Reilly
at the bars together.
Even Ryan O'Reilly. I've spoken to him, and I was like, what a good guy. And then that Tim Horton story comes out.
Yeah.
And then there's all the stuff about his dad. Buffalo is willing to take on some shenanigans, right? That to me is
I
a
wish
perfect
that-
fit. I don't know if they're one of the
really hope
teams
that
in.
Can you imagine? I'm just imagining that picture of Tim Murray. Take that picture of Tim Murray and then take the Buffalo Sabres out for beers at the end of season dinner and just have Tim Murray at the head of the table screaming internally. I mean, just wow. But yeah, Drouin seems to make the most sense there. Where else does he make sense? And what do you give up a top prospect for him, or do you want to give up? Do you want to keep Tampa to players that are playing now and say, listen, Steve, your time to win is coming up. You need a great defenseman. We've got this great defenseman. We've got this great power forward. We've got something. That to me makes a little bit more sense. Dealing top prospects for top prospects, unless you really, really, really believe in him. And I don't know that he's shown at the NHL level that you can quite yet. Doesn't mean he won't. He's had, he's played 87 games and he's had 40-something points. Pretty good.
He also hasn't played a hockey game in quite a while.
There's that.
Yeah.
And
Who knows how
also,
rusty he
the
is.
Lightning are so crunched against the cap.
So you almost have to take on salary with Drouin.
Or, like, it's weird. Like, what do you give up other than picks? But if you're the Lightning, you want to add. Because you're going for it, aren't you?
Jared Cowan, Drouin, straight up.
Whoa! Let's do it.
Grabner. Just saying.
He would fit in quite well with Tampa's style.
I don't even know if they could afford him.
I don't think they could.
Grabner makes $3 million. I think that might be.
Well, you could retain on the rest of his salary if you wanted to.
And this is the thing. Again, listen to this discussion. There's so much to be determined still.
The
It's
Leafs
exciting.
have 5 guys they got to get rid of before Monday. Do they get rid of them all?
Who are the 5?
Grabner, UFA.
Maybe.
Parento, UFA.
Definitely.
Arcabello, UFA.
No.
Brad Boyes, UFA.
Yes.
Clune, UFA.
No.
They all got
Are
it.
those the only 5? No, come on. Are those really? Well, I'll be.
So Jesse had the general manager page open. I just want you to know that. And Steve was like, no, you can't read that.
You've never been so surprised by something. You were like, let me see that. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. No,
You know
I
what?
don't trust Jesse.
And the lost, forgotten UFA.
Should I get you
James
guys?
Reimer.
You know what? Can you-
Oh, yeah. There's
That's
another
true.
big one.
There's a
Is he going to be gone?
And maybe they keep him and find a way to trade Bernier.
Yeah.
You know what I'm surprised about? What
What are you surprised
I am
about?
kind of surprised about Dustin Byfuglien. Can I see the Winnipeg Jets page just to make sure that he's signed? I just want to make sure.
I mean, we
Is
did
there-
tell him, but like he needs to see it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is there a 10 to 70% chance that he signed, or is it 100%? Are we sure?
I'm thinking 120.
By the way, shout out to everybody that listened to last show and said, thank God neither of you are accountants.
Oh, yeah. That people got really upset about that math thing.
Well, what do they expect? We've been open about the fact that we suck at math. Anyway, we got to go on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. This podcast brought to you by Panago Pizza. It is, after all, what is on the inside that counts. And it should be Panago Pizza that's on the inside. We will be available at sportsnet.ca, or you can find us on SoundCloud, Pod Stitcher, wherever it is you listen. Subscribe to the show. It is the Steve Dangle Podcast. We will see you next week, the day after the trade deadline.
The day after tomorrow.
Nope.
In a few
No.
days.
That's not.
It's hilarious that we're this far into the show and we still haven't talked about Kovalchuk.
I love it.
Like, it's, that's
So
crazy.
much hockey.
So, okay, from what I understand about Ilya Kovalchuk,
Yes.
he, SKA,
St. Petersburg, your team.
my team, upset with him over his dip in performance this year, although he was still, I think, top 10 in scoring. And
So what? You pay Kovalchuk to be number 1 and no other option.
Right. And then they were upset with his performance in the first game of the Gagarin Cup playoffs, so they bench him. And then they say, by the way, you're not playing in game 3, and you're probably not going to play in game 4 either. So he leaves the team.
Yes. And it's funny. The person who broke this news, I'll give it a shot pronouncing your name. Ivis Kalnins. I believe out of Latvia.
Do Russians just name people to make it as hard as
It's Latvia.
possible?
No,
Oh, it's Latvia.
no, Russians don't. Latvians do.
Oh yeah, let me one up my neighbor on how hard it is to pronounce my name.
Oh, yes. No, I used to hate when I did the KHL highlights.
Zemgus Skrzlevskers.
Christus Skrlevskis. And Lauris Darsensch.
Remember going through the Austrian team when the Olympics were started?
Lügen Flügenhofer? They all sound like we kept pronouncing them like the name of all the dildos from Eurotrip.
Yeah.
Bring on the Flugen.
Honestly,
This is clearly not the radio portion.
I felt like we were looking at the big book of Swedish names because it sounds like how Swedish names should sound, but it was more Swedish names don't sound like that.
I'm trying to look for the tweet. I can't find it. But anyway, yes. Oh, okay, good. He's embedded in the Sportsnet story. I believe he's a listener of the show.
Oh, is he? Hi there.
Tweets all the time. Kovalchuk has told SKA if he's not on the roster in 2 days time, he's terminating his contract and heading to North America. Now, I believe him because
I don't blame him because the ruble, by the way, has taken a hit.
That is why I believe it. Mm-hmm. Well, one, it came from Elvis. Mm-hmm. Please DM me how the hell to say your name. But two, the ruble sucks and he left for money.
He sure did.
However, I will say one thing before we get to Jesse because I cut him off. You have to understand the KHL. This is not the first time a league leading scorer or team's best player or captain was healthy scratched. In fact, during the lockout year that I was doing highlights, that happened to Radulov.
But Radulov is crazy.
Maybe Kovalchuk's crazy.
Okay, maybe.
According to Ottawa Ghost, he's fucking crazy. Let's get to the first question. Kovalchuk, are you fucking nuts turning down $100 million? That's still my favorite Ottawa Ghost.
Is it a usual thing that he has his own right to terminate his contract as a player?
I think it's a KHL thing.
You can make up whatever the hell you want in Wonderland.
Yeah, you get. It's Russia.
Fair.
Very merry on birthday to you.
They can not pay you. They can just not pay you for doing video highlights.
Legalities in Russia they're legal.
Excuse me while I have a spoonful of honey. That's only funny on video.
The legal suggestion is legalities are merely a suggestion there. It's merely like it would be a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll pay you. I don't know. You plan on dying in the next 5 months? What's your problem?
Russian math is like my math. Okay. No, I'm kidding. But honestly,
I think your math is pretty exemplary in comparison.
What's interesting about this is there's the geopolitical landscape. Because of the things that Russia did in Ukraine, the sanctions against them worldwide by the UN have done a real number on the ruble, and that was before oil crashed. So now oil's crashing. And the Saudis and all the OPEC nations are saying, well, countries like Canada, you might have to get out of producing oil as an industry because it's that low.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, and Russia, by the way, one of the major producers of oil in the world. So there's that too. So the ruble has fallen that far that Kovalchuk leaving all that money on the table when he did turned out probably to be a quite ruinous financial situation.
I don't have the math, but I'm going with probably
$77 million.
You could have called that, though, when he walked away from it. So it's interesting that he did. I mean, what was he expecting, right? What was he expecting? And I mean, it's not as though anybody could have predicted that the ruble would have fallen this far. But in American history, we hadn't seen a crash like that since the 30s.
Oh
so chances
God.
are it wasn't going to happen again soon. And what
I just Googled it. Okay, so Andre and I think this was the year before we did highlights for the KHL, or it was right before. I think back then we were paid in rubles that he converted to American dollars, or they converted to American dollars or whatever. Back then it was 33 rubles to the American dollar. You know what it is right now? 75 and a half. Holy smokes. I mean, the Canadian dollar's taking a dip, but
sure. But the
that's
ruble has been
insane.
bad. But like I said, before oil bottomed out, the ruble was bad. So just imagine.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really bad.
And
so can you imagine then all the money Kovalchuk
could have made?
$77 million?
Because if the ruble stayed the same, that actually would have been a smart deal.
Totally.
Yeah.
He would have made
whoever-
all that money in like 4 years and then gone back to North America and made new money.
But whoever gave him that advice, stupid.
Might have
Now,
been him.
For him to come back, the way I've understood it, and I've tried to read up as much as I can, for him to come back, he would either have to sit out an entire season from professional hockey, period, or he comes back and gets all the approval. Every governor in the NHL has to approve him.
Which I have a hard time believing they would do.
It's called a voluntary retirement versus voluntary retirement is pre-35, I believe.
Yes. And people keep talking about, would he have to clear waivers? I don't think he would. I don't know the answer to that. I don't think he would either. I have a hard time though. Like, let's pretend making up a scenario. Let's pretend the Sharks want to sign Kovalchuk. If I'm the Ducks or the Kings, why would I let them do that? All I have to do is say no, and it is not so. Like, why would I let a divisional rival who's close to me in the standings do that? All I have to do is be a dick and say no. If the Habs want Kovalchuk and I'm the Leafs, all I got to do is go, nope.
Yeah,
and you no longer have Kovalchuk.
His choice is either everybody approves his reverse retirement papers or he returns in 2018, 2019 as an unrestricted free agent.
So that's 2 seasons.
Why is that 2 seasons? Jeez.
That's when I think the old contract is up.
And he said but Kovalchuk said he's going to go to North America, according to this tweet, which...
If he sits out a full calendar year, he can return to the NHL as a UFA as long as he gets consent from the Devils.
I just have a hard time.
I have a hard time believing the governors would want him to sit out. I think, hold on. I think Gary Bettman pulls those guys into a room and he says, listen, I know that this is a divisional rival, whoever team he ends up with. Maybe he ends up with New Jersey, right? Because he seemed happy there.
Who knows?
Until he left. So let's say he has to go to New Jersey and New York has a problem with it. If I'm Gary Bettman, I go, listen, we are trying to sell a game here. And this guy is an absolute unmitigated superstar. And this is a big story. We need him, and we want to send a message to the KHL that we are, in fact, better.
Yeah, and apparently, as I was reading today, the KHL players will not be on Team Russia at the World Cup.
Which we're getting to.
Oh, wow.
Which we're going to talk, we're going to talk about that in a sec, too.
So imagine that. Imagine that coup.
So I think that he does get the approval, because I think the governors wisen up and go, true.
The least likely team he signs with... and for approval, the team most likely to
retain his rights.
The team most likely that governors would shut down, I think, would be the Kings, because supposedly they were the runners-up in the Kovalchuk sweepstakes, and people were not happy with how the Mike Richards thing went.
But the thing is, from what I understand, if he comes back and they get approval, the rights are still the Devils, so they can trade him. But I don't think he's an unrestricted free agent.
So weird.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I believe it belongs to the Devils. You can correct me on that and hate me for that, but I believe that's what I read. So
also, do you got to be confident you're getting Ilya Kovalchuk back, man?
Yeah, because I don't know that you are.
I don't know you are either.
So all that aside, interesting story. I do think there's no way the NHL governors let him sit out 2 years. There's just no way. There's absolutely no way.
Never know.
I just don't see it. However, only because he's a superstar can they do that. But I also,
and it hasn't happened yet.
But I think that it's bigger. Yeah, it hasn't happened yet. But I think this is a big story that the NHL wants to show its dominance over the KHL, and getting to the fact that KHL players will not be allowed in the World Cup is another reason why I believe that the NHL wants to do this. The NHL wants to show its dominance. You're the National Hockey League. You are the best in the world.
There is a lot of prick waving,
sure,
as they say. Hey, non-radio part of the show. One thing Andre always said, Andrei Osachenko, who obviously I worked on some KHL stuff with him for many years, still keep in touch. One thing he said for a long time was SKA St. Petersburg has more money than the Leafs. Now, he never showed me any numbers to back that up, but I believe the company that owns SKA St. Petersburg is Gazprom, which is like the big
oil company
in Russia, government owned, I believe. So they just, here comes the money, here we go. Just throw it at whatever you want.
So it's like all those big soccer teams where oil companies, just oil kings just own them.
Basically.
Running billions.
Yeah. Now, it doesn't matter if they make a profit.
Yeah.
Although most of them do.
When it comes to the KHL and money, what do we know for certain?
It's not about the money.
Well, we know shenanigans.
Oh, shenanigans for sure.
The league doesn't care about making money. But also shenanigans. I would not be surprised if, because remember, this has 2 days to work itself out. I would not be surprised if the big old duffel bag gets dropped off at his door. Or if they just go, listen, You take this, now shut up, play, score goal. I wouldn't be surprised. Oh yeah, we renegotiate. It's fine. It's about the hockey. He's a hockey player. He play hockey.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't be surprised, man.
Well, I want to talk about the World Cup here.
Yes. Oh, what about it?
I want
Could Kovalchuk renounce his Russian citizenship and join Team Some of Europe?
Well, he might get to play on some of Russia.
I'm Croatian, though. Team Some of Russia. Oh my God, we have 3 Team Some-ofs.
Some of North America, some of Europe, now some of Russia.
No, it's some of under 23.
Some of under 23.
Which is even stupider.
Yeah, right. Because if you're under 23, you can be selected to Canada first,
William
right?
Nylander
Can you?
Yeah, William Nylander can play for Team Sweden.
But if he doesn't make it,
Connor McDavid. No, it's not even if he doesn't make it. Team under 23 is only North America.
Yeah.
So Connor McDavid cannot play for Canada. He has to play for Team
but
under 23.
Nylander can play for Sweden.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No problem, Adam. Why?
under
What
23 is
seems
only
what
North America.
seems confusing about that?
Oh my God.
It makes sense.
What's wrong about that?
This is, by the way, the World Cup format is the easiest format to follow. Country, players. Country, players.
No, I don't know. You
That doesn't make
wrong.
Oh
sense.
my God! This is just.
We've been through this.
I saw a report. Somebody was like, "Yeah, definitely. Canadians are catching World Cup fever." I'm like, "No, they're effing not."
I have not heard
Not-
from one single person.
No, one
You know
person is
what?
tweeting.
They
Sure,
might.
can't wait for that World Cup.
They might. I mean, whenever the hockey season comes around, I get excited.
Yeah,
I get
and they're
excited
doing
in
it smartly
September.
because they're putting it right in the middle of training camp.
There you go.
I'm sure it'll be fun to watch, but it is Team Some of Russia.
Well, for now.
If Radulov is not playing, then it's not Team Russia.
Or Kovalchuk. Like, Russia, they're a great hockey country, but I don't know if they have enough NHL players to ice a really good team.
I don't know either.
The first few lines will be great.
Sure. But I mean, they weren't even.
I'm trying to
They
think
weren't
of who
even
the hell
dominant at the Olympics with the whole team.
They're also, I don't like how they're coached. I just don't think they're coached well, and they have been for a very long time. Anyway, what a catastrophe.
Well, it's only the first 16 players who will only be from the NHL. They said they might consider the rest of the roster will be KHL players.
You know what? An NHL GM, an anonymous NHL GM, recently took flack for talking about being half pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And people were saying that NHL GM is a dumbass. Correct. However, how many other NHL executives think that way?
All of them?
Like, listen to this shit that we're talking about.
It must be like, imagine being an outsider, and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, you become an NHL exec, and you think like a normal human being, and you go to a governor's meeting. That must just be a total mindfuck, right? Like, that's got to be crazy. And I wonder if the Leafs now, with their brain trust, because I truly believe the Leafs have the smartest group of hockey minds in the world right now, as they effing should. They absolutely should have that. I believe they must just go to these GM meetings and laugh and laugh and laugh at the way these, not in front of people, but, you know, later on in the hotel room when you're having a cocktail with Brendan Shanahan, you're going, oh my God, did you hear what Jim Benning just said?
I think part of Brendan Shanahan's charm is he's got such a good poker face.
Yeah.
So he can just hear you say the dumbest thing in the world. I mean, he follows me on Twitter, so he can just hear you say the dumbest thing in the world and just be like, okay. On the surface and inside. He's like the inverse of Tim Murray.
Yep. I saw him eating popcorn at the camera shot to him on Tuesday night. He's eating popcorn at the game.
Oh, that was such an unfortunate shot.
It's just, I didn't think so. I was like, he's even got his poker face on while he's eating popcorn.
That's true. Sorry, I was on my phone. I was trying to look up a Ryan Lambert tweet. He posted a quote, an idiotic quote from an NHL exec, and he's like, this is just the latest in a series called Literally Anybody Could Be an NHL Executive.
I think wasn't that a Jim Benning quote?
I don't remember.
Well, do you want the full World Cup quote?
Yes.
Oh, great. From who?
Alexei Zamov,
Zamnov, who's
Alexei
a former
Zamnov?
NHL. Yeah.
who's he's the delegation. He's the guy in charge of the Russian team.
Used to be a Leaf killer.
So he told Sportsnet, right now we're going to put 16 players from the NHL on the roster. For the remaining 7 spots, we'll discuss. Maybe some players from the KHL too. Right now, it's most important for us to make the list of 16.
This is very interesting because the Russians don't have a huge North American pool, and you really got to look at North America. Mm-hmm. I wonder if guys in the AHL have a shot, and I think of two Leafs, Renat Valiev on D, and Nikita Soshnikov up front.
And Zaitsev, by the way, who's
and
coming
Nikita
over.
Zaitsev. Yeah, because he won't be in the KHL.
Now, is he under the... He's 23? No, it doesn't matter. He's
That's
not
another
American.
insufferable thing about the Leafs, by the way. They're not going to be in the playoffs, and they're going to be talked about all spring. All spring, because Zaitsev is going to sign, I think, as soon as it's after April 30th and his KHL contract's up, he can sign.
And then Vesey.
And then we get into the Vesey talk, and then who else is available in college? Who else we got?
Who else wants to make money?
Morgan Riley. We got Morgan Riley contract talk. How about that? Peter Holland. Josh Levo. Garrett Sparks.
The negotiations are started for Morgan Riley.
Nazem Kadri.